The envelope is the colour of an old bruise turning yellow, and my hand has not stopped shaking since I pulled it out of the satchel at the corner of Route 6. 4:17 in the afternoon. I know because I checked my watch 4 times on the walkover, the way you check a door you have already locked. The speed limit sign at the mouth of Hadley Lane reads 25, and I cannot make my feet carry me past it any faster than that, as if some part of me believes the number is a law that applies to the body as much as the car. The address is my mother's name, Eleanor Voss. She has been dead for 9 years this October. I buried her myself, in a dress she picked out, in ground I helped choose. The street stretches out ahead of me, and I want to describe the silence properly, because silence has textures the way fabric does. This is not the hush of an empty afternoon. This is the silence of a held breath. The silence of someone in the next room listening for you to speak first. The maples do not move. A wind chime hangs on the third porch down and refuses to ring. I have been walking this route for 6 months. I have not told my supervisor about Hadley Lane. I have not told my husband. I have not even written it down in my own log, and I do not know any more whether that is because I am afraid of it or protective of it. The route book Mr. Pruitt put in my hands that first morning was heavier than it had any right to be. Leather the colour of wet bark, corners worn soft, and a smell to it like a closet that had been closed since someone's grandfather died. He did not shake my hand. He did not wish me luck. He set the book on the counter of the sorting room and opened it to the index, and his finger, that yellowed nail filed flat across the top, tapped Hadley Lane twice, just twice, like a man knocking to see if anyone was home. There were pages stitched in at the back by hand with black thread that had gone fuzzy with age. I did not get to look at them then. He said 3 things to me, in the same flat voice he used to order coffee. Always deliver before sundown. Never read the addresses out loud, not even to yourself. If a resident comes to the door, do not look at their hands. I laughed. I remember the exact shape of that laugh, how it came out of me bright and stupid, the kind of laugh you offer a stranger to show you are friendly. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He waited for the laugh to die in my throat, and when it did, he closed the book, slid it across the counter, and walked out without his coat. The turn-off to Hadley Lane appeared that first day between mile markers 47 and 49, and I sat in the idling van for a long moment trying to make my eyes find the 48 that should have been standing in the weeds. It was not there. The road simply offered itself, a clean ribbon of asphalt curving off into a corridor of maples that had not been there the morning before. The houses were beautiful in the way taxidermy is beautiful. Mid-century ranches, low and tidy, paint fresh enough to smell. Every lawn was cut to the same height and stained the same impossible green, a colour that did not deepen in the shade or pale in the sun. Every porch light burned at 1 in the afternoon. No dogs, no sprinklers, no mail carrier before me apparently because the boxes were empty as held-out palms. 3 envelopes for 3 houses. I read the names only with my eyes, the way Mr. Pruitt had told me. Caleb Brunner, Marian Volchek. A third I will not write here, even now. I slid each one into its slot, and each slot closed with a soft inhale, as though the box itself had been waiting. That night at the diner, 2 truckers were talking low over coffee. A man had gone through the guardrail out on Route 9 around 4. Drunk, maybe. Asleep, maybe. Caleb Brunner, they said. Never had a chance. I had delivered his letter at 1:15. I started the list in a marble composition book I bought for $2 at the same diner where I'd heard about Caleb Brunner. I wrote his name first, then the date he died, and I drew a small bracket between them. 2 days. Marian Volchek went 4 days after her envelope. The third name went 7. By the end of that first week the pattern had set its teeth. Nothing arrived in the obituaries sooner than 2 days. Nothing waited longer than 9. The window was as fixed as a tide table, and I was the moon that pulled it. On a Tuesday I tried to refuse. The envelope was thin, addressed in that same careful hand, and I slid it into my glove box and drove home with my jaw clenched so tight my ears rang. I slept badly. I dreamed of a porch light burning at 1 in the afternoon. When I opened my satchel the next morning, the envelope was inside it, resting on top of the others, slightly warm, the way a stone is warm after a hand has been holding it. That afternoon, a woman named Eunice Hallam dropped in the cereal aisle of the Food Lion and did not get back up. I told myself, sitting in the van with the engine off, that I was not the cause. I was only the messenger. The distinction held for about 9 more days. Then it stopped holding anything at all. Hadley Lane was the 7th stop that Thursday, and I had the brass slot half open when the door behind it swung inward, and an older woman stepped onto the porch. She wore a quilted housecoat the colour of dried hydrangeas, and her slippers made no sound on the boards. I almost dropped the letter. In 2 weeks I'd not seen a single resident, not so much as a curtain twitch, and here she stood smiling at me as though I were expected for lunch. I remembered Mr. Pruitt's 3rd rule, and fixed my eyes on her face. Not the hairline, not the throat, the face. She thanked me for coming all this way. She asked how my father was keeping, and she said his name, Daniel, with the soft familiarity of someone who had known him a long time. She remarked that the air had a real bite in it for October, that the maples were turning early this year, that I should tell him to mind the steps on his back porch when the frost came in. I answered. I think I answered. My mouth moved and pleasant, ordinary words came out of it. She waved as I walked back down the path. In the jeep I sat very still with my hands on the wheel. She had not blinked. Not once, in all that conversation, had her eyelids closed. I picked up my phone and called my father. It rang and rang and rang. He picked up on the 4th ring, his voice furred with sleep, and when he said my name I had to press the heel of my hand against my mouth to keep the sound inside it from getting out. He had been napping on the couch. The Braves were losing. The back steps were fine, he said. Why was I asking about the back steps? I drove the rest of the route in a kind of glassy calm. It lasted until I got home and opened the route book to log the day, and found, sewn into the back with neat black thread, a page that had not been there that morning. The handwriting on it was mine. The loops on the lowercase g, the way I cross my 7s. Addresses I had never seen, in a town I did not recognise, scheduled for next Tuesday. I drove to Pruitt's house before I could think better of it. His wife answered the door in gardening gloves. She listened to me with a patience that frightened me more than anything else that day, and then she went inside and came back with a folded programme. Daniel Pruitt. 4 years this November. I remembered the dry warmth of his handshake. I remembered him pouring coffee into a chipped white mug and sliding it across the desk. I looked down at the hands holding that programme, and I could not, for the life of me, remember what my hands had looked like before. The envelope in my hand was addressed to my mother, and my mother had been dead for 6 years. I told myself that on the porch, out loud, like a prayer. Marion Halloway, gone the winter I turned 22. A closed casket and a cold buffet and a thank you card I had written myself, in my own looping hand. This letter could not mean anything. The cream paper was only paper. The wax seal was only wax. I walked Hadley Lane all the way to the end for the first time. I'd always turned back at the Pruitt place, always, as if the road simply concluded there. It did not. It went on. The maples thinned, the asphalt narrowed to gravel, then to a soft path through grass that had not been mown but lay flat anyway, as though something passed over it often. The last house sat at the end of the lane with its porch light burning in the flat afternoon sun. White clapboard, a blue door. The fern I had repotted in August hung from its hook, still listing to the left because I had never quite levelled the chain. On the welcome mat lay a yellow envelope. No name on it yet, only the waiting rectangle where a name would go. I understood then why Pruitt could hand me the route with such dry, warm hands. I understood the handwriting in the book. I had not been delivering to the dying, I had been delivering to the replaced. Months passed the way water passes through cupped hands, and when the office calls me in to sign the retirement papers, I do not argue. The new carrier is a young man with a careful smile and a clipboard he holds like a shield. I walk him through the route in the back room, my finger moving down the laminated map, and when I reach Hadley Lane I tap it twice with a yellowed nail. Never knock, never read what is not addressed to you. Never walk past the Pruitt house after the porch lights come on. He laughs, the bright easy laugh of someone who has not yet learned what laughter costs. I do not laugh with him. I hold his eyes until the sound dies in his throat, and then I hand him the ledger, and the keyring, and the dry warmth of my own hand, and I watch the recognition pass across his face the way it once passed across mine. I drive home the long way. The maples are bare now, and the gravel gives over to grass, and the grass lies flat in that smooth, uncombed way I have stopped questioning. The porch light is burning. It has been burning, I think, for longer than I have been alive in this house, which is to say for several months, which is to say forever. I do not check the mat. I do not need to. I know the envelope is cream. I know the name is mine.